It is another edition of Ohio Political News podcast show, and I want to thank everybody. Arriba! Woohoo! I'm just trying to get into the gist of it all here, and I also brought my mariachi. Look at this, guys.
Oh.
Do you see that? I had to make this for my daughter. She was like in third grade at the time, and I found it. Whoops. So anyhow.
You got it all going on.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Let's see what we got. Brian with us here tonight. Good to see you, Brian. Jonathan.
Salute.
Good to see you. Chris Long is with us, the Ohio Christian Alliance. Good to see you, Chris.
Good to be with you.
All right, great. So we want to talk about, there's a lot that we want to talk about with you, but I think maybe we'll just kick it off kind of quick. Oh, you know what I forgot, guys? Gosh, I forgot this. This is Mexican, too. You got to have the confetti. All right. I want to get into, let's talk about some of the government shutdown first, and then from there we'll just take it to wherever you want to go. But your thoughts on this whole government shutdown, is this something to be concerned about? Is there some type of a ploy mechanism with the Democrats or whatever? Just like to get your thoughts on that. And thanks for being with us today.
Well, thank you. Yeah, good to be with you, Joe. Actually, we just came out of our annual Fall Freedom Banquet, and we had a great time with Bill Feder as our keynote speaker. We also, Bill was actually with Charlie Kirk just days before his shooting in Seoul, South Korea. In fact, that was referenced in the memorial service last week by both the pastor of Charlie Kirk and Secretary of State Marco Rubio about what was happening in Korea. That Marco Rubio had mentioned that he received many texts from Charlie Kirk about the Christian persecution that's going on in South Korea because the president of South Korea has ties to communist China. And so let's go back a little bit here. You remember last year when the previous president tried to sound the alarm, and he said there's something going on here in South Korea, and he was going to impose martial law because communist infiltrators were trying to take control of the government, and actually in which they have. This is actually going to be an emerging story. I know that President Trump right now is focused on the Middle East and his peace deal with Hamas and Israel and the Middle East, but the eyes will turn quickly back over to the Far East because this thing in South Korea, we have troops on the ground there. I mean, we had 36,000 American lives that were lost in saving South Korea from the communist Chinese. And here we are, fast forward to the year 2025, we have Christians being thrown in prison in South Korea. In fact, listen to this. The pastor that hosted Charlie Kirk and his pastor, Rob McCoy, and Bill Feder, this is just days before Charlie spoke at Utah when he was shot. That pastor has been arrested. He's in prison right now. The young lady who heads up the youth movement there, that's like Turning Point USA, their version of it, that she was with Charlie, she had to flee the country for fear of her life. The former president has been arrested. He's actually in prison. His wife's in prison. They're not feeding her. She's down to like 90 pounds. And other Christian leaders are being arrested in South Korea. So this is kind of a big deal. So
wait a minute. That is a huge deal, but I haven't been hearing about this on Fox or I've been reading about it on X or anything like this. Is this, is it not being talked about, or is it? And I'm just missing it.
No. So you're missing it because it's not being talked about. Again, it was in the memorial service. But let me read to you the last text that Bill Feder received from Charlie Kirk before he was shot. They've known each other for 11 years. And actually, Bill at our Freedom Banquet shared of his relationship with Charlie right up until the time of the conference in South Korea. Charlie was going to sound an alarm. He was going to blow it up. He was going to go on Glenn Beck. That's before he was shot, okay? And so he said, right after the Utah event, I'm going on Glenn Beck. I'm going to blow the lid on this thing. And then, of course, he was killed in Utah. But this is what he said in 1 Corinthians 16:9. For a wide door for effective work has opened to me, and there are many adversaries. This is the last text that Bill Feder received from Charlie just days before he was killed, of course. So we had a really meaningful freedom banquet because Bill Federer, I never seen Bill get emotional. And I told him that I wanted him to share about Lexington and Concord, the shot heard round the world. And I said, we were just there with Dave Barton and Bill Federer the week before in a great tour in Massachusetts of the great battle of the start of the Revolutionary War. And I said, Bill, it actually now has a dual meaning because the shot heard around the world is Charlie Kirk because it literally went international. Get this, Joe. Last week's memorial service had 200 million people that streamed into it. 200 million. Now, up until that moment, and at that time, with that memorial service, that prayer service, the largest mass prayer in human history was FDR's D-Day prayer on June 6th of 1944. It is estimated that 100 million people worldwide heard FDR as he prayed the D-Day prayer. Okay, and as you know, we added that to the Mall in Washington as a permanent addition. It's actually a prayer monument. People go there and pray. I don't have the pictures with me tonight, but there are people that gather there to prayer. But what happened last Sunday with the memorial service is that this now is largest prayer in human history with 200 million people streaming in worldwide to the memorial service.
And this guy is just so incredible. This Charlie Kirk, just so incredible. All right, so this thing, you're catching me a little off guard. I didn't know about it in South Korea. I didn't think we had anything to worry about with South Korea. To me, it was always North Korea, right? With
That's
Kim
right.
Jong-un and all that
That's right.
garbage that's going out there. South Korea was never really talked about. But now you're saying that South Korea sounds like it's just as bad as North Korea now.
Because the communist Chinese have infiltrated this. This is their puppet president. Listen to this. This guy who's their current president was invited to the Peking military parade with Iran, with Russia, with India, with North Korea, and South Korean president, the current one. And so this is about to blow. You're going to hear a lot more about this. And so we're actually lobbying Bernie Moreno, John Husted, congressional members this week. They're back. As we know, we're going to talk about the shutdown. So I'm going to be making calls tomorrow. We were obviously trying to host Bill coming in. We had our Freedom Banquet on Thursday, so there was a lot going on. But Mina Kim is the lady young gal who fled South Korea, and she is now in Washington, and they're trying to get her a little office where she can start working Capitol Hill. So you're going to hear a lot more about it. But, the president has a lot of irons in the fire. I mean, think about it. He's got to deal with Ukraine and Russia. He's got to deal with the Middle East. And then he's trying to negotiate with China on trade, right? And then he's got a government shutdown as Chuck Schumer is shutting down the government. And at the same time, you got in Chicago on the streets a war ensuing against the ICE agents and federal agents. What just happened? I mean, this is moment by moment, right? This happened yesterday where you had vehicles of the federal officers rammed while they're trying to do their immigration deportations and raids. The same thing has happened in Portland, Oregon with Antifa there. So a federal judge on Saturday night, okay, stay tuned, folks. I mean, you got to really watch this stuff. A federal judge, an Obama appointee, made a statement, said, "Oh, Mr. Trump, Mr. President, you can't send in federal troops. That's unconstitutional. I hereby order that you can't do it." So no, this thing's breaking loose. You got Chicago with their actually assaulting the federal agents. They surrounded them with 11 cars. They called for the police, and the police were given a stand down order by that liberal Chicago mayor. That guy, if he should be investigated. If he gave them a stand down order, I think charges should be filed by the Justice Department against that guy. But see, look, this is all happening. Remember, Trump said 10 days ago to Pam Bondi, it was a tweet on her Saturday night, watch out for Saturday nights, right? Because Trump got out there in True Social and he said, "Hey, Bondi, arrest somebody, anybody. Look at how many times they came after me and all my former associates, and you've done nothing." And then he took it back a half an hour and he said, "Oh, no, you're a great person." No. That was a shot across the bow. The president wants action by his attorney general and this Justice Department to get moving. Yeah, there's a shutdown, all right. But there's so many things going on right now, and people really need to pay attention. But I will say this. We had nearly 20 Turning Point USA students with us on Thursday night. That's right. We have a young man. These young people are beginning to turn, not just to their conservatism, but they're turning to Christ. And they heard the word of Charlie Kirk and his witness for the Lord. And it was wonderful to have them. If you go to our Facebook page, Ohio Christian Alliance, you go to our Twitter account. We're also going to have it later up on our website. We're sending out an email later tonight with all the photos from the Thursday night banquet. And of course, these young people, 30 of them signed up to be reading tutors through our Life Read volunteer reading tutoring in Columbus. So these folks are ready to do something, because we're going to use the founding documents in our reading tutoring. We're going to use the scriptures. We're going to public schools, charter schools, Christian schools, one-on-one. Going to be doing a lot of tutoring, and these kids are they're fired up. So there's like 350 size Turning Point USA chapter at Ohio State University. We had representation of them with us on Thursday night. Also, Ashland University was there as well. So some really exciting things with the youth that's going on. But I know you want to talk about the shutdown. I talked to Senator Houston about that, but again, it's moment by moment, day by day, right? So as we go into Monday, doesn't look like much is going to happen, but the wire says that Trump is going to start firing these federal employees, not laying them off, not furloughing them, getting rid of them.
Right, just firing them like that. Right. So what do you think the odds are of that happening? Is that something that you think Trump will definitely do? Because I would love to see him just sort of slice and dice the federal government. It's way, way too big. You know that as well as I do.
There's a projection this last week that as many as 800,000 federal employees could be let go. 800,000. We got so many federal employees. They really don't do anything. They collect a paycheck, okay? There was the other thing that Schumer and Jeffries, they're both from New York City, both from New York, and he put the kibosh on that $81 million second tunnel under the Hudson. Just stop the money. So if they want to play ball, he's going to play hardball. And these two losers, okay, what are they doing? They're doing the bidding of the radical left. The radical left, they're shooting at our officers in Dallas. They were ramming cars yesterday. Folks, they killed Charlie Kirk. When you going to wake up? Remember the old Bob Dylan song back then when he came to faith in Christ in 1980. When you going to wake up? Okay, when you going to wake up? This is real. Yeah. It's happening.
Hey, let me ask you a question here about Charlie Kirk for a minute here. Just a real short answer, but do you think that there was some kind of there were assassins hired or something, because he had so many enemies, as you were just saying. There were so many enemies. Yeah. And I don't know about this lone gunman, this one kid. There's a lot of questions and stuff. So I understand there's a lot of questions, but just your gut feeling on this, what do you think?
I think this looks a lot like the Kennedy assassination, when there are more questions than answers. And I think a lot of people are starting to realize that. They don't know if this kid, so you had the old man in the audience right away, I shot him. Okay, that was like a decoy. Okay, and right away it said, I just wanted the real shooter to get away. And then this kid with this convoluted confession with his dad in the something's weird there with 250 miles away and all that. We're not sure yet, but and then you saw the pictures of the video cam pictures of the person of question that was in the hallway that moved his way up to the roof. It doesn't look anything like this kid that said, I did it, confessed, okay? That guy looked like he was from Central America. That seemed to be had skin tone like that, olive skin tone. He looked like he was almost like from Central America.
But Charlie had to be Charlie Kirk had a lot of enemies. It sounds like there were a lot of foreign entities that wanted him killed. So that's the only reason I'm a little suspicious about this whole thing. And I gotta have the Mexican hat here. We gotta pass the Mexican hat around. Start doing that. Brian, this is your big chance to talk to Chris. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, Chris, thank you so much for joining us. When I was listening to you, Chris, I just had the thought, can we be involved in a world war and a civil war at the same time? Because I just don't like the direction that I see everything happening. It's not.
You're not
we're
alone,
on the
Brian.
wide path of destruction, Chris.
Yeah. Well, see, and why? So here's another thing. This is really exciting. And I know we're Christians here tonight, so this is going to be very exciting for us. So we played a little video that's gone viral. It's on our Facebook page. It was this lady that went to church last Sunday in Massachusetts, and her and her husband are pulling up, and she said she's live on the recording, and she says, "We've never seen this before." There was this humongous long line of people trying to go to church at the church where she attends, and she said, "We're from Massachusetts. This doesn't happen." Well, it was interesting because I played that video, and then Bill Fetter said, "That's the church I just spoke to last week." He said that church doubled in size. It was a church of about 1,000, and the pastor says 1,000 more people are now coming in one Sunday. Wow. One Sunday, just doubled in size. But this is happening everywhere. We've got reports all around Ohio of pastors saying, "I had 80 people baptized last week. I had as many people come to faith at the altar, 80 decisions for Christ." So we're hearing all this response that's happening all across the country. And I think we're going to see more and more because there is, Brian, to your point, if you talk to some of these kids, they're scared. They're scared about what they see on the international scene. They're afraid of what's happening. I mean, when Charlie Kirk was shot, it kind of stopped a lot of people. You're seeing people that are leftists, they're Democrats, they're liberal. The internet's filled with it. It's like, I'm going to church next week. I don't even know where to go. I bought a Bible today. I don't even agree with a lot of things that Charlie Kirk, but I got to tell you, this is crazy, and I don't know what to think. And you're seeing people come back to faith in Christ. There is absolutely a move of God on. And I want to share this with you. We were with Dave Barton and Bill Fetter up there in Massachusetts for the tour of Lexington and Concord, a very moving tour. But at night, we had a breakout session of a dinner. And David Barton said something. He said, there are revivals and there are awakenings. You've had two great awakenings in America. The first great awakening took place before the Revolutionary War. The second great awakening took place just before the Civil War. I'm sorry, the first one for the Revolutionary War, the second one by the Civil War. Revivals change people, but they don't change culture. Awakenings change culture. So the question is, are we on the brink of a great awakening in America? And it didn't just happen with this. It's been going on for about 3.5, almost 4 years now, since the outbreak of that revival at Asbury College. And we've been monitoring this. And then it spread over in the colleges and universities. And you've seen these large meetings at colleges and universities, not in the churches, okay, up until now. It's been at these colleges and universities. It's been outdoor. Thousands of these kids coming to faith in Christ. And so this has happened over the last 4 years all over the country. Now the Charlie Kirk moment seems to be another moment. And in this stirring of a spiritual stirring that we've never seen. Okay, I've been a Christian, it will be, 47 years this week. And I've never seen anything like this. I was saved at what you'd call the end of the Jesus movement, which was a revival. It was a revival. It was a minor movement of God. And all these kids came to faith in Christ in the early 70s. I got saved in 1977. And so it was kind of the tail end of that. And then we went through a long stretch where there hasn't been anything. But this, people have been praying for a long time that there would be a mighty stirring spiritually in our nation. And this seems to be it.
Yeah,
it
this one seems
happening.
to be doing it. You better believe it. So this one definitely is doing. There is a movement of God in this country, and you're right. I feel it too, and the young people are getting on board with it. Let me go over to Jonathan. Hey, Jonathan.
Hey, guys. Chris, thanks for coming back on and joining us. I made some notes here, a few things. One, to answer Brian's question, absolutely. And when there are things like a civil war, it's very common for adversary nations to stick their fingers into civil war. And I think more appropriately and more contextual, it is common in this era for countries to try to create civil war environment in other countries to destabilize them, which is candidly what I think is happening here. We have a number of countries, including our own, that are some adversarial deep state elements within our own nation, I should say, that collaborate with other countries to try to destabilize and potentially bring down America. So that's the environment we find ourselves in. And if you've listened to anything I've said, our social media audience, over the last couple of years, it's the fact that we've been in a war for a while. It's just taking some people longer than others to realize this is fifth generation warfare. We're in it. So a couple of things. One is, when it comes to this great awakening, I think it's awesome. And I'm seeing the same thing as Chris is talking about. There are people all over social media that are talking about ordering a Bible for the first time. There's a whole conversation, and people are trying to, people are breaking the ice with an interest in biblical principles at an extraordinary rate, and it's spectacular, and it's really awesome to see. In fact, part of the conversation, and I think it's telling, it's interesting, it's very engaging, is people realizing, I want to buy a copy of the Bible because I want to understand the stories and the principles of the Bible better. And then people are hitting that, which translation do I want? And the conversation around that is really interesting. If you're not on X, you can find some conversation on other platforms like Facebook, but that is a lot of people navigating their way and then helping other people with a handout and a starting point, a frame of reference for biblical principle. One of the things that I will say is, as we're seeing this, we're seeing a lot of concern about an increase in anti-Christian rhetoric, and that just goes with the territory. It's just nothing new. It's been around for forever. The attacks against Christianity. My suggestion now, and this is just me personally, I've spoken with people who have very different opinions than this, and that's okay, that's fine. My opinion, being in the, or not in the, but being very closely involved with the self-defense arena, I suggest at least looking into some places like U.S. Concealed Carry Association that offer something called hardening of facilities. Just going to briefly leave this out there, but those are places that will go in and train a church to have some people on site that are armed, that know how to step in and quickly address a potential threat as a team. I hope and pray that that does not happen, that no churches are attacked. But I'm also of the mind that we should be prepared in case something does happen. So There's one other piece that I'll throw in there, or actually two more things. One is, and I've been saying this in the context of education and K through 12 and the stuff that we saw years ago. I'm going to keep saying it because it keeps holding true. Fight back now or things will get worse. And whatever the environment is, if you're looking at something like the libraries and porn, or the horrible nature of schools, or the race baiting that's happening throughout society, or the programming on streaming services, whatever the topic or issue is, fight now. It's going to get worse the less we fight. It will get worse in every instance. So you, our listening audience, step into the fight. You need to fight back now. There's a man and a woman that for a long time did a news podcast that was extraordinary. I actually loved it. It was called Frank and Beans. Tracy Beans and Frank, I forget Frank's last name. They've kind of split up. Tracy Beans is doing something else now, but Frank, it's Frankly Speaking on all kinds of social media platforms. Frank, I haven't listened to it yet, but I heard a great description from my wife of a current Frankly Speaking podcast that has everything to do with the nature of the horrible reaction to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And it is a compelling perspective that has everything to do with I don't want to give too much away, and especially since I haven't listened to it. But my suggestion, just based alone on my wife's description and knowing what I know about the work that Frank and Tracy Beans have done, go listen to that, because I think it's going to be eye-opening. That's going to be one of my next stops when I get a block of time to put it on tomorrow. It's Frankly Speaking, and you'll recognize them if you followed any of that Inside DC, I think was their original podcast. Frank and Tracy. So now Frank has this podcast out. It's a series that focuses on what happened to the left that drove them to go crazy, just absolutely bonkers crazy, celebrating a school shooting the way that they did. That I think we're going to need to listen to and understand, to better understand what's happening on that side.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Chris, you got a few minutes here. Is there a particular area that you want to go into, or I know
I want to circle back to the memorial service last week. And the memorial service last week, when the sentinel moment is when Erica Kirk shared.
Wait a minute. Ken, are you out there? Kent! Okay, go ahead. If you can, cue up that thing with Erica. Go ahead, Chris.
So when Erica Kirk said, "I forgive that man,"
right,
and that was the sentinel moment of the entire evening, because at that moment it really disarmed the enemies of Charlie Kirk and the things that he stood for. And that's what really, I think, Christianity was on display last week in the memorial service. And again, 200 million people worldwide streamed into that. And it was a moment that really moved so many people, right? There are things going on in churches right now. People are making decisions, actually, to how pastors responded in addressing the Charlie Kirk assassination. I've talked to people said, "I can't continue to attend the church I'm at. I heard the pastor's comments, and I can't stay here anymore." Other pastors got up and talked about, just as we are, about what happened and how much it means, and Charlie's faith. And so people are making some choices right now. They're making decisions. And so there is absolutely a move of God, a spiritual move of God afoot right now.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, I want to play that. Ken, you got that keyed up there. Let's play that real quick. This is gut-wrenching stuff here. This is Erica. So we don't have the audio. It's not quite the same without the audio. I wonder why. Well, anyhow.
Yeah, we've got the audio now. Kent, can you start that over?
Yeah, rewind that. Rewind it and play it again.
That young man. I forgive him.
Yeah, it's just so gut-wrenching to hear that. All those people there. Look at, wait a minute. Oh, well, I mean, there's just so many people in that stadium and everything. Yeah.
Yes.
And as you say, God works in mysterious ways, and in some ways, this assassination and everything is having such a powerful impact for God and His followers.
Yes.
So it is kind of making the best of a really horrible situation. But sometimes it takes a situation like that to wake us up. And I think that's what's happening here.
Just a quick suggestion for our audience. For me, it was not long ago. I would not have been able to imagine possibly in my wildest mind, forgiving the killer of your spouse. And that, to me, not long ago, was a foreign concept. And among all of the different things that I encourage and suggest people look into, and for anybody out there searching to understand what it means when we talk about biblical principles, I subscribe to a streaming service called Angel Studios. You'll recognize that from where a number of recent great movies have come out of. And they tend to have biblical perspective and through a biblical lens. And there's one in particular I actually watched earlier today called Amish Grace. And it has everything to do with forgiving people who have done horrible, horrible wrong. It's a tough movie to watch, but it's important, and I'd really suggest it. It's among all the great movies that I've discovered on Angel Studios. But I think that in particular, her willingness to forgive the murderer of her husband, the father of their children, is unfathomable to many. That movie, I think, does just a spectacular job of addressing what that means. It's called Amish Grace, and I recommend it.
Gotcha.
Joe, I would say this, and just in closing on this portion of the program tonight, that there are seeds that have been sown with all that's transpired, and I think what's important for Christians is to pray and to water that seed, because a lot of people have heard the gospel. Last week was so clear in that memorial service. But just as Jesus said, the sower went forth to sow. Some fell on the wayside, some fell on stones, some fell on good soil. But it's important that we pray to water those seeds so that they grow and that we do see a mighty harvest, okay? So we're encouraged at the Ohio Christian Alliance. Why? Because we had 20% of those who attended the Freedom Banquet on Thursday night were under the age of 40. And so, where we see a lot of conservative groups, it's like in recent years, we've all been getting older and all that. But now we see this insurgency of a newer, younger group that's coming, and they want to know what we know. And so that's what's really encouraging, I think, for us as well as an organization. Just want to direct people to our website, again, Ohio Christian Alliance. You want to visit that in about an hour from now. We're going to have some photos up there of the Freedom Banquet, some statements that Bill Federer made about Charlie Kirk and his relationship with him. And then also on Facebook and Twitter, you can follow us there. One of the great projects we're involved with right now is Ohio Reads the Declaration of Independence. And it was HCR 22 that passed the Ohio House, or the House Education Committee this week. And you'll be hearing more about that. We're going to be doing a reading in the schools of the Declaration of Independence in celebration of our nation's 250th birthday. So lots of opportunities there. We're very excited about that.
All right, Chris. Well, thank you. God bless you very much for all the work you do. And it's always a pleasure to have you on. So, and it's always a good thing. We didn't even scratch the surface. There was a lot more we were going to get into, but we'll just save it for next time. But thanks again. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. All right, well, we're going to move right into another guest here, and there he is, Jeff Skinner from the Ohio Register. How you doing, Jeff? Good to see you out there. So,
yeah, doing good, Joe. I wasn't ready for that hat you're wearing.
Oh, okay. Well, Get
the mustache back out.
Yeah, I got the mustache and I got the mariachi. Woo! Where's the mustache when you need it? I'll find it somewhere. But anyhow, it's good to see you. It fell. I don't know where it went. They don't make mustaches like they used to. I can tell you that right now. We got to talk about Tylenol and what Trump had said. And you wrote a very interesting article here on the Ohio Register. Let me put this up here. Yes, acetaminophen can lead to autism. And I was reading the article here, and this is on your Substack page, the Ohio Register, so people should go there. You got a lot of great articles, this one by Jeff Skinner himself. But let's talk about this because it's really not as controversial as I thought. It seems like it's something we've known for a long time, and why did it take so long for it to really get out, get the cat out of the bag, so to speak?
I mean, that would be my opinion. So what I did is I compiled research studies that have gone back at least, 10 years or so. And there's multiple of them, ranging from everything from the mechanism of action and outlining how Tylenol actually leads to symptom onset, which is diagnosed as autism spectrum disorder. But in addition to that, I mean, to your point, why is this controversial? Well, I think at the end of the day, Trump said it and RFK said it, and they are controversial figures in the political sphere. But from the research, I mean, this is going back at least to 2018, 2019, maybe earlier at this point. But, the studies have been pretty conclusive that there are several mechanisms of action in which acetaminophen can lead to what I would consider autism spectrum disorder. And if you'd like, I can go through what that is.
Yeah, go ahead. Absolutely.
Yeah. So just so your reader or your viewers are aware, I'm going to be using some terms you can look up, yourself, or go on to the OhioRegister.com and read the article. But acetaminophen, pain reliever, it blocks signal receptors in the brain for pain. It's used for common things like headaches, fever, things of that nature. Commonly prescribed to nursing and pregnant women. In this case, acetaminophen, when it's metabolized in the liver, it's metabolized by a family of enzymes called cytochrome P450, CYP 450. This is the CYP family of enzymes are in the liver, and they break down various foreign material. In this case, the specific family CYP 450 breaks down acetaminophen. When it does that, it creates a toxic byproduct called NAPQI. I'm not going to go through the whole name there. If you want to look up what the formal pharmaceutical name for that is, you can do that. But an overabundance of this NAPQI leads to what's called reactive oxidative species, or ROS for short. And that is the key precursor to oxidative stress, which creates inflammation systemically. Now, normally when your body breaks this down, that toxic byproduct is carried out of the system by an antioxidant called glutathione. It's one of the most potent and powerful antioxidants in the body. High levels of glutathione have been associated with positive outcomes and lower symptom onset of things like COVID-19. This is also why when people have acetaminophen toxicity, they've taken too much Tylenol, they go to the hospital. The treatment for that is a supplement called N-acetylcysteine, or NAC. This boosts the body's natural glutathione, which helps purify and purge the body of that NAPQI toxin that's become overabundant in the system. However, the problem is Tylenol also decreases glutathione naturally. So when you're taking it, you're actually reducing your body's levels of this potent antioxidant, which is important for things like fighting off illness, and you're causing an abundance of this toxic compound. If you are pregnant, as an example, all of that goes into the baby as well. So what they found in about 5 different studies that I've looked at is they found a direct correlative link between high levels of reactive oxidative species and oxidative stress in children that had ASD diagnoses, autism spectrum disorder. They found low levels of glutathione, and they found in several other studies a clear mechanism of action of how once you take this Tylenol as a pregnant or nursing mother, the baby's developing body does not have high levels of glutathione to purge out that NAPQI. You end up with high levels of ROS, and that leads to neuroinflammation. And that neuroinflammation actually damages brain cells, leading to, what we would consider ASD criteria: difficulty with communication, social-emotional understanding, a plethora of dysfunction, starting at the cellular level with mitochondrial dysfunction. So the studies, in my opinion, have been very clear on this for a very long time. It's just become controversial, because of who said it.
Now, hang on one second. Let's do this because I'm going to just show this. You have massive meta-analysis published by Mount Sinai University. Let me show you how big this report is. It's massive. It just goes on and on and on. I don't know, hundreds of pages probably. You've got all of these sections over here. But this is to let us know that this is something that they've been talking about for a long time, this acetaminophen. And also what I understand from your article is that the child in the womb, these toxins that are created from it can cause brain damage to that young infant in the womb, where it wouldn't necessarily do it to someone your age or my age or an adult. So, and they've known about this, it seems like, for a long time. So when Trump comes out and says, this is directly linked to autism, he's got all this information, and this information has been out there for a long time, and you were able to dig it up pretty quick, I think, up on there onto your Substack page and everything. So what was it that kept it from getting out to the public? Was it just Big Pharma wanting to hide this, or something else?
Well, I think that's the 10 million, 20 million, $100 million question. I don't know. We could look at who was on these FDA, CDC boards and things like that we've seen a lot of turnover for recently, under the current HHS direction. I think that it would be a safe assumption that there's always been a revolving door relationship between the regulatory agencies and the pharmaceutical companies. And further, it's those pharmaceutical companies that control and operate the medical training establishments. As we saw all this during COVID, right? Like it's not new to us to understand the bad relationship that these entities have. But, you're right, this should have been discussed much sooner. I think that, the overabundance of the NAPQI toxic compound that creates the neuroinflammation in a baby, like they don't have the ability to fight it off the way that we do. And the long-term damage that's caused by that is what, is displayed as autism spectrum disorder according to the DSM-5. So, it's sad to me to think about how many children have probably been exposed to this compound because of doctor recommendations to their mother.
Sure.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
The parents being none the wiser.
Absolutely. I mean, it's Big Pharma. They're going to tell you to take this stuff and you're pregnant. And I don't know if you can blame the doctors or not, because they're just working off the Big Pharma's own data and analysis, which says it's safe. So this is the kind of situation we're in right now.
Yeah, Jeff, thank you so much. I didn't know you knew so much about medicine. I'm really impressed there, Jeff. Thank you. My exposure to, the average citizen and even, friends and relatives, no matter what Donald Trump or Kennedy says, they're not going to believe it because, quote, we've got a Surgeon General and the Surgeon General should speak up. So it just is amazing to me that people will not believe anything Trump or Kennedy says. I find that really amazing. And what's also really disconcerting to me, they knew about this a long time ago and no one said anything because of profits. So they took profits over these babies. And I find that appalling, and I think they all deserve to go to hell.
Yeah, that's money is the root of all evil. Money is the root of all evil. How you doing, Jonathan?
Yeah, so a few things. I've mentioned this before, but there's a map. At some point, Joe, I'll get a copy of it and I'll send it to you. You can put it up when I reference this map. But to me, it's very telling. It's a map of the scale of instances of autism spectrum disorder, and the United States is just a solid blob of major issues. And when you get further away from the United States, generally speaking, it drops off. So we don't have this problem. It's not like some sort of genetic global sort of problem. It's not appearing. with as much prevalence in much of the rest of the world. It's because the United States, well, I'm not going to draw that conclusion definitively, but I will say that there is certainly indication that the United States' heavy reliance on and use of Tylenol may be one of those indicators that that is a cause and effect. So I'll leave it at that. But I will say that on my side of the equation, a big part of what I do at Unwoke Academy is always follow the money. And I released a statement a few days ago. You'll find it if you go to unwoke.academy. That is actually the website. There's a company called Kenvue that owns Tylenol through a subsidiary called McNeil Consumer Healthcare. I released a bit on this. It was a write-up and a short video. That actually spun off of Johnson & Johnson about 2 years ago, 2023. So Johnson & Johnson did own Tylenol. So there's a lot to unpack there in the owner group, who knew what, when, and we're starting to see little drips of it coming out and becoming public. For instance, some emails that are purportedly originated from within Johnson & Johnson or one of the subsidiary companies that worked on Tylenol that allegedly appear to indicate that going back, I think 7 or 8 years ago, there were people in emails acknowledging cause and effect that were saying we're worried about the public becoming aware of some of these health implications of Tylenol and swept it under the rug. Now, these are all allegations at this point, but my big push for us and for the public is to keep pushing on this stuff. We've seen it happen before where some new big distraction comes along and suddenly we find ourselves 6, 8, 10 years from now looking back like, oh yeah, whatever happened with the Tylenol investigations? My push and my objective in uncovering these sorts of things, and Jeff, I'm sure would say the same thing about the Ohio Register. By the way, that's a hint. If you're not following the Ohio Register, go sign up. You'll find him on Substack and all sorts of social media platforms. He does what he's doing with this article to continue to create public awareness. The more there's public awareness, the more we, the people, insist on finding answers for this thing. There it is. Go find that and sign up. I just actually looked it up now. I hadn't read that one yet. You've got one heart there. That's me. I want to see lots more hearts from you, our listening audience, going to the Ohio Register and reading this article and clicking on it. And by all means, for heaven's sakes, don't stay silent. Don't let people sweep this under the rug. It doesn't matter that it is a multi-billion-dollar industry. What matters is the health of babies and children and future generations.
Okay. Oh, by the way, if we do get a chat, looks like we got a chat here. This is Ohio Political News. Ohio Political News. Ohio Political News. So you can follow us on YouTube, Rumble, X, Facebook, any one of those. All right. So
Substack.
Substack, and if you want to chat right now, because we are live, we will take your chat. So it says, is ibuprofen any safer if the mother has a fever? Jeff, what are they saying to use in place of Tylenol? Have they mentioned any other options out there?
Well, that is a question that I don't feel that I should answer. I have my own opinions on it. Ultimately, I will preface that with a legal statement of consult your doctor. I'm not a physician. I will tell you that in terms of fever, so I saw the question pop up. The first thing that came to my mind was, what is the purpose of a fever? Why does it happen? So when your body's temperature raises, and you look at the Scandinavian countries that have a tendency to do things like saunas in the winter, they do the sauna treatment. They'll stay in the sauna for 30, 45 minutes to an hour, maybe plus, and then stand outside in the freezing cold. Rapid temperature differential. What they're doing is the temperature increase raises the body's leukocyte level, which is an important blood cell that actually helps, white blood cell helps fight foreign infections. Okay, so fevers happen for a specific reason. Your body is trying to artificially or naturally increase its temperature outside of an environmental stimuli so it can raise leukocyte production and fight off an illness. We have a tendency, in my opinion, I think, to try to suppress this because we think that every fever is dangerous, and that's, I would say, medically not the case. Fevers become a problem when they reach over like 102 to 104, when you start getting into issues of, potential like brain damage into that, but the standard 99 to 101, fever is a normal process. So the tendency of trying to deploy some kind of over-the-counter petrochemical to suppress it, I'm still trying to figure out why we want to do that, if that makes sense.
Well, here's something else on your sheet here on your Substack page. Trump, without new evidence, ties to link Tylenol and autism. So that's from MSNBC, but you can see how they're downplaying it. They're saying that the new evidence, basically Trump and Robert F. Kennedy, they're full of it, basically. Here's one from CNN. Trump links autism to acetaminophen use during pregnancy, despite decades of evidence saying that it's safe. Well, we know that's a big lie. Or Trump gave medical advice about Tylenol, but here's what the real medical experts say, and that's from the Washington Post. So, it's article after article. They're going to fight. This is big pharma making this happen. That's what it is. It's big pharma who has so much influence, especially with newspapers and mass media and stuff like that. So they're trying to get their message across. But anything else that you want to say about this? It's very fascinating. I'm glad you did the research on it because everybody is taking Tylenol. I mean, people are told to take Tylenol for everything. You got an ache in your back, take Tylenol. You got a headache, take Tylenol. Fever, Tylenol. It goes on and on and on. Well, if you're pregnant, that's definitely going to cause concern for the child.
Yeah, it's. I think COVID, if anything, should have taught a lot of people that the medical establishment, even your own doctor at times, probably doesn't really understand pharmacology, doesn't understand the mechanism of action of drugs that they are prescribing to people. And I used to test doctors that I would see at times. This is my own, neuroses perhaps, but I'd go into a doctor's office when I still went to them, and I would ask them a question when they would try to push a drug on me. And so I would say, what is the mechanism of action? And if it wasn't a gram-positive, gram-negative, broad spectrum antibiotic, they'd always have to look at that little laptop that they come in the room with to try to figure out what it is. You're having trouble sleeping, they're going to try to prescribe you Ambien. Go ask your doctor, if he's a general practitioner, how that works. What is it doing in the brain to make you sleepy? They're not going to know. And they're not taught it is the major problem. So when they're talking about things like if something is safe, they're talking in relative terms. They're not saying that there is no consequences or no ramifications for ingesting this drug. They're saying that it's not going to immediately kill you. And those are two separate things that we have to, as informed consumers, really try to wrap our heads around, that when they say safe, it's relatively safe, not 100% safe with no risk.
I got you. All right, thanks. Thank you very, very much for coming on here. You get the applause. Well, no applause,
Thanks,
silent
Jeff.
applause, but you got the confetti. And next time you come on, make sure you get yourself one of these hats, okay?
I'm going to have to bring a funny hat. Yeah, I didn't know that was the order of the day.
Yeah, nobody got the order of the day here. Look at this. Everybody's got a hat on, but you're supposed to have the Mexican.
Yeah, I don't have a Mexican hat, but I do have this one.
Yeah, there you go. Close enough.
There you
It's
go.
got straw in here. Yeah. Put a little bit of color in it, and you're all set.
Close-ish. Yeah, I'll just color the edges.
Thanks again, Jeff. We really appreciate the Ohio Register. Thank you
Thanks,
for all your
Jeff.
hard work. Appreciate
nice
it.
job.
Yes, God bless.
Thanks, Jeff.
Take care. All right, we've got another guest coming up here in a few minutes, but I thought it would be an excellent opportunity, Brian. Maybe we can talk a little bit about property taxes. Ken was out in Geneva, And I got to show you some. Did I get it or not? Oh, I'll have to look for it here in a second. I may have. Let's give me 1 second here. I got to find it.
Brian, Willie's
Yeah, I
looking for
can't
that.
tell
Show
you
off
that-
your mug.
Oh, here it is.
Property tax,
Right.
what happened to a neighbor, what situation they're in. So you hear all the stories.
Well,
It's interesting.
I just think that it's important for initiatives like this should be let the people decide it.
Right. Transparent.
Let the people decide. So anyhow, this is out in Geneva. I think Ken had his cell phone out and he got a little bit of information. This guy was at an Oktoberfest. He was outside.
Madison.
Out,
Transparency.
Madison. Okay.
And that's the problem with this property tax. Pay your bill or get the hell out. There's no mercy. There's no consideration for the senior or the person that's on disability and
Yeah.
injured.
So
It's-
my story is my dad's 85, my mom's 84. They've been working since they were 16 years old. I think at some point
Yeah.
they're supposed to be able to enjoy
Relax.
their
Yeah.
retirement.
Yeah. There should be some relief.
What a novel
There
concept.
should be some relief.
Yeah.
They've been paying into the system
That's
for,
right.
for 70 years.
That's right.
Yeah, I've been paying into the system for 70 years. Don't you think by now they deserve some property tax relief?
Absolutely.
Well, let me address that, Joe. And I was speaking to Commissioner Plechnik today. He was out at the signing location in Mentor at Timothy Allen Jewelers, and I confirmed that when we wanted to eliminate property taxes for seniors, that total number, if they would have done that, it would have been less than $3 billion a year. Now, $3 billion, it sounds like a lot of money, but when you've got a total state budget of $100 billion, it's less than 3% of their budget. The state legislators did not think enough about the seniors in Ohio to reduce their spending in other areas to give the seniors a tax break at 65. So that tells you what the legislators, not all of them, there's some like Tex Fisher and Jennifer Gross that are willing to step up, but basically they don't believe in giving carve-outs for seniors. So the video that we saw, we could probably get 100 more videos like that throughout the state of Ohio because they're all saying the same thing. I can tell you I wanted to follow up with what Chris was saying, and the common denominator that I'm finding when I'm talking to people throughout the state, those that understand that the property tax issue is more than a dollar and cent issue, it is a freedom and liberty issue. Those people tend to live their life with a biblical principle, is what I'm finding. So it is encouraging that we're seeing people as we're talking to them. They understand that we're talking about freedom and liberty. If you own nothing, will you be happy? Or will you be happy living in affordable government housing? Because we're telling people, when you live in affordable government housing, your freedoms and rights go away. Your Second Amendment would go, probably the First Amendment would go. So you're going to give up to live this, quote, happy life of not owning anything but living in affordable tiny homes, renting from the government. You'll give up your rights.
And that's exactly.
It's not only for this generation; it's for future generations.
Right, and we are just running. We're just running. If you've got a $6,000 property tax bill, that's $500. Say it's $500 a month, and most of that goes to the school systems. But you're just continuing to rent, and you got to come up with $3,000 every 6 months. People can't do that anymore. You just can't.
Now here's something that I did. Here's something I did learn that's very disconcerting to me, Joe, and that is the Ohio Farm Bureau. I'm hearing from circulators, throughout the state in the farm belt of Ohio, that the Ohio Farm Bureau is not supporting the elimination of property taxes. So what I did last week, I left a voicemail message with them to call me because I want to find out their position, why they are not supporting the abolishment of property taxes, because I thought the Farm Bureau was supposed to be supporting farmers. Now, maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe they're only supporting those large corporate farmers, and maybe that's maybe they want to eliminate all of the smaller family farms. Maybe they've got to go, and the Farm Bureau doesn't want to support them. But we're also trying to reach out to the Amish community, and I want to find out if this the community, which is a strong family-based community with a lot of farms, if they're registered voters, you would think they'd all be signing this petition because they don't want to lose their farms. But we're going to get back to you on the Farm Bureau. We're not going to give up on that. We are going to talk to them, or we will expose them if they're not supporting their farmers. They were invited to speak to the governor's committee. I did see their name, and I'd like to find out what they were actually talking about.
Maybe if the Ohio Farm Bureau isn't actually representing real Ohio farmers and is instead representing just corporate interests, like you suggest, maybe they need to be replaced with a real Farm Bureau that's focused on family-owned farms.
I agree 100%, Jonathan. I agree, and I'm gonna try to get to the bottom of it so that we can get the truth out to the people. The truth shall always prevail.
All right, here's something. Let's go ahead. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Well, two other things I wanted to interject. One is when people think about this whole notion of like somehow some kind of easy living if you get into government housing and get provided stuff. Well, there are plenty of examples of what that looks like. You can find them in Southern California and parts of really depressed downtown Chicago and South Chicago. And you can find them in North Korea and throughout China. And for instance, that whole shtick of China giving out the Chinese Communist Party through the grace of money collection and the massive fraud that exists at the highest levels and all throughout the Chinese Communist Party. Remember what happened during COVID? They were soldering, they were welding doors shut to seal people into buildings and basically kill off all these people during COVID. They make decisions about everything. If you get into that government housing thing, and we can see it in depressed communities all throughout the United States, my point in bringing that up is I suggest that everyone should want to avoid that because that is a trap. Get away from that. It just means death and doom to everybody everywhere. The other thing is, Brian just brought up the Ohio budget. The Ohio budget crept up over $100 billion this year. Well, I'm going to keep bringing up the fact that it wasn't long ago. That was only at $67 billion. So
100%
it has just skyrocketed. And so when Brian talks about a roughly $100 billion budget, and things in context, if we could save this group of people with a $3 billion cut, that's a drop in the bucket on the $100 billion budget. Well, all you would have to do to get a whole bunch of those successes is just go back to the inflated, preposterously overpriced budget that we used to have at $67 billion. And I'm still asking the same questions. What are we getting in exchange for that? We're paying $67 billion. What's the state of our schools, job growth, job creation, roads and bridges, infrastructure, airports, all the sorts of things that we, the people, should expect that our $67 billion is going to get us? What is the stuff that we're actually getting for that? And when that leaps up to $100 billion, the question becomes even more emphatic. What in the world is happening in Columbus?
Yeah, it's got to be investigated.
$100 billion. Yeah, Doge, Ohio.
Got to Doge, Ohio. We got to investigate Ohio, and we got to see where all this money is going to.
Yeah, I saw something from Cheryl Lawrence, and they were talking about Lake County Treasurer Michael Zern is going to be speaking about the Wycliffe School income tax levy. So I don't know if I think it's on the 14th. I think I'm going to be in Mahoning County. I'd love to go to that and live stream it for Ohio Political News. We'll see if we can we get some alternatives to go there and record it, because they're saying that this is going to be something new for Wycliffe. The problem with the Wycliffe schools here in Lake County is that they build a school that the community cannot afford. Is really basically
sounds familiar.
And,
they did that in Euclid too. They built a monstrosity
to house children that are not being properly educated.
All righty, guys. We have another guest here. Let me see if I can get you there. Look at that. Looks like a movie star. Hey, John, turn your camera the other way once. Let's just see if we get a bigger picture of you, if you can, if you don't mind. Sometimes it works. That time it did work, yeah. So how you doing there?
Doing great, Joe and Kent. So
yeah, are you in Nebraska these days, or are you in Iowa? I know that you were in Iowa, but you may have moved.
I'm in Kansas. I'm in Kansas right now.
Oh, you're in Kansas.
Kansas City.
Gotcha.
I'm a visiting professor here at Ottawa University, professor of finance. I was a visiting professor last fall, and they extended me into the spring and in the summer, and now in the fall, and now into the spring again. So I'm out here at our great Angel Snyder College of Business, and working with the Gortney Institute, which I believe is the nation's premier free market enterprise, pro-capitalism, academic think and teach tank. I would say what the professors are doing here is akin to what Art Laffer was doing at Stanford back in the late 70s, early 80s, what Milt Friedman was doing at the University of Chicago. And yes, we're on the East Central Plains here of Kansas, where I also have 4 grandchildren. So Deb and I have been able to spend some extended time with them during this period. And also I'm doing media consulting work for Brandy Communications. I'm doing about 6 radio shows, to be honest with you.
Keep it busy.
We are the home and away voice of the Kansas City Royals. We just missed the playoffs, but we were over 500 this year. And the Jayhawks had a big win. But we are the home and away voice of the Ottawa Braves, the winningest NAIA football program in United States history. I'm in the booth as an analyst, the color commentator. So we had a big game yesterday, had a big remote out at Rantoul to fight cancer with the great chili cook-off. And as you'll see, I sent some photos. One of the chili cooking teams was there in sombreros and ponchos, so I have decked mine and forwarded that to you guys since you're in appropriate attire this evening.
Well, if you got a sombrero, you got to put it on, okay? You got to put it on. Let me see who else you got. You got a couple guests here with you.
Yeah, I'm so proud of these guys, Joe and Kent. This first gentleman here is Brock Chapman. Brock is a California kid, and Brock, among his many accomplishments, he was one of our great athletes, and he's now our sports information grad assistant, taking master's programs. And Brock's a humble guy, but he did beat both Pete Hegseth and Bobby Kennedy, both in numbers of push-ups and pull-ups, sit-ups and pull-ups, and in the timing schematics. I think, Brock, just tease him. How many pull-ups have you done since March?
Let's see. I just did another 540 today, but I'm at about 48,024 total.
48,024.
Wait. 48,000 what? What did you? 48,000 what?
Just straight pull-ups.
Pull-ups. No human being can do that, by the way. That you guys are that's impossible. 48,000. No, get out of here, guys. We gotta cut the show. This is the BS is getting too high in here. I am not gonna tolerate it. You have another guest here. Maybe
I do. This is one of the premier journalists in America. Jacob Hall is the founder and the publisher of the Iowa Standard, which in the Midwest is the kingpin of all conservative news, filtered fairly through a very great lens of fairness. But Jacob has broken so many stories, and definitely he's a true blue conservative great American. And as you know, part of the reason I brought these two guys on tonight is obviously the schools are ground zero right now for this culture war that's going on. And I brought Brock on because Brock was one of these students when I first came out here 14 months ago in August. I noticed how conservative these NAIA college kids are. Even Brock, who's an Angelino from Los Angeles. And I asked these great athletes, football, softball, women's volleyball, you name it, said, why are you guys Trump supporters? And they said, because of Charlie Kirk. And of course, I really started barreling into Charlie Kirk for the last 14 months. Instagram every day. They watch him on TikTok, all of that. And I also brought on Jacob Hall because Jacob has done some incredible sleuthing on what's now a national and international story of the, let's just say it's a mess at the Des Moines public schools. Now, you think Iowa's a red state? Well, not in the educational levels. And of course, when I was vice chair of the oversight committee in Iowa, looking at our regents colleges like University of Iowa, Iowa State, Northern Iowa, there was plenty of free speech suppression going on at the time. So we've got two great people tonight. You know,
let me do this, John. Let me just go over to Brock for a minute because we were just talking about Charlie. So let me get your how much of an impression Charlie had with you and stuff, okay? How old are you, by the way, Brock?
I'm 24.
24, okay, terrific.
Yes,
terrific. So what kind of an influence did you have there or Charlie had on you?
At first I was scared, honestly. You know, we're told to be scared to, be different. We're told to be scared to, be that entrepreneurial mindset. And I was in high school, COVID happened, I was a COVID senior, so I decided to come to Kansas to wrestle. I was on a wrestling scholarship for 4 years, tore my ACL my senior year, decided that I wanted to go a different venue, a different route, came back to get my master's. I got my undergrad in marketing and finance, but now I'm back for my master's, my last year of my master's, and I've been following him pretty much since high school, I guess. Even 2019 is when he really got, famous and so on and so forth. And, my mom really got me on him at first. My dad was a follower of him too, but my mom was like really hardcore in social media when I started getting social media because she wanted to protect me with bad social media people and whatnot. You know how social media can be horrible and sometimes. And so she got me hooked on Charlie Kirk. I watched his videos. I would probably watch him every day. And I just loved the way he held himself, strong, sturdy, like just rock solid. And just the way he treated people. He was open-minded. He, people would call him racist, homophobic, whatever. And he just proved me wrong. Tell me why I'm that, and I'll tell you why I'm not. And he's just humble. And yes, he was that pound the chest guy, but he was that guy because he was just so smart and intelligent and not physically strong. I mean, he was physically strong, but not physically attacking people. He was emotionally and just psychologically talking to people, saying, Why do you believe what you believe, and how can I change your mind? How can I show you the gospel? How can I, change your mind politically to get you on one side or the other? So, I mean, that's what got me going. I mean, I can go on and on about it all day, but
Brock, tell the guys what happened the day Charlie was shot.
Yeah, it was an emotional day for me. I was on the phone with my dad for about 4 hours talking about it. If you think coming from California, I'm a liberal, but I'm not. I was raised, about 2 hours from Los Angeles, up in the mountains, up in Big Bear. We call it Lake Arrowhead. But that day, I just didn't know what to do. I was just like, what the heck? So I just called my parents and I was like, hey, what do I do? And my mom and dad are just like, stay strong and what you believe, and don't give up on what you believe in. And no matter what people say to you or do to you, through the school or through athletics or through politics, in religion, just stay true to who you are and know that what you have in here is the most important thing.
And what have you begun? What have you undertaken, my friend?
So we're looking to I've started it. I just haven't got it passed through the school yet. A Turning Point USA here at Ottawa, Kansas, at the university here. I decided that I was tired of being scared. In my position, specifically my boss, all my bosses and higher ups, they're all left mindset, and I'm the only one that's like has like a right winged mindset, and so I was scared to really speak my opinion. But on campus, everyone is also scared to speak their opinion. But when you open up dialect and discourse and talk to people about it, they're like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. I want to do this. How do I get involved? So that's kind of what we've been going over. John's been helping me as an advisor with this and just keep me, in the correct, format and stuff like that. So that's just kind of what I'm doing right now.
That's great. And one of the amazing things is we had a guy on earlier, a pastor, Chris Long from the Ohio Christian Alliance. And we talk to him every now and then. Just a great guy. But, yeah, he was talking about how this movement, there is a movement with this whole Charlie Kirk. People are not inhibited to proclaim Christ as much. There's just a groundswell. It's amazing. Yeah, to the Bible, people are reading the Bible again. They're proclaiming Christ, and they're doing it like, hey, I don't care anymore. You don't want to hear it? Tough. Get out of the way. Enough of this BS where I'm going to be intimidated for preaching the gospel. No more. And it's like, it's a marvelous thing.
Well, Brock had a friend in the athletic department. We won't mention any names, Brock, but he said he'd been away from church for 15, 20 years. And the Kirk thing troubled him so much, he decided to break open the Bible. He asked you for some advice on where to start. This is happening. And that night that I was doing radio remotes, I had a coach's show. I had another a show to do a pregame taping for the football. I had a hospital ribbon cutting event to cover that's birthing babies again, the hospital here. There was an event at the high school, an award ceremony, and there were dignitaries at these events, but there were 7 times as many people gathered in Kansas Park for a prayer vigil for Charlie Kirk. You're right, Joe. This has really been a transformative hinge point in our nation's history. I think a time of renewal.
Absolutely, big time of renewal. Hey, I want to get Jacob Hall on here for a minute. So how you doing, Jacob?
I'm good, Joe. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. You're Kansas as well? Are you got all... You're an Iowan. Yep. And John used to be an Iowan. I know that. And
just to scare people, I tell them I'm coming back when I'm done as visiting professor, just to throw some scare into them.
Right. Okay, so let's hear Jacob's story here.
Yeah, well, just to follow up, I was at the memorial for Charlie Kirk in Phoenix 2 weeks ago, I guess today. And I think there's so much to see. His contribution, I think, to our country and our political spectrum or sphere has really only just begun. And I think a lot of people are excited to see where that goes. And what I did was I actually kind of tied 2 things together here, because in Des Moines, which is Iowa's largest school district, they just found out 2 Fridays ago that the superintendent, the person in charge of the entire district, actually isn't supposed to be in America. And
wow.
Surprise! For years we've been told that we have to hire these illegal immigrants because Americans don't want these jobs that they keep taking. I didn't know Des Moines superintendent had gotten onto that list. But this is a job that pays a few $100,000 a year. And not only was he arrested by ICE for being here illegally, he was in possession of a gun in his car. And then they found 3 more guns in his home. I think they were all loaded. That's illegal. He had a hunting knife and $3,000 cash on him as well in his car at 9 a.m. on a Friday during the school year.
You guys got some shady superintendents out there. Oh, yeah, Brian in here. Brian, you got a question for any of them? We got some great guests here tonight.
Yeah, Joe, I'm so encouraged to hear these 2 fine young men. And what I heard was, and I didn't understand this, but it seems like the college culture has made everyone afraid to express what they really believe or feel on situations that are going on in the world. And that is the opposite of what I thought the higher education was all about. I thought that was, freedom of expression and to make sure that we are honoring our rights. And it is so encouraging to see two fine young men that are stepping up and saying, no more. We're not going to take this anymore. We are going to push back. And also, it's really rewarding to hear the introduction of the Bible again. I think that's a key ingredient to reversing the trend that we're seeing in the United States.
Absolutely.
Brian,
I hope it continues.
Yeah, Brian, I just want to echo what Brian said. Guys, sure. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. That's where we are, guys.
What is that, though, Ephesians? What does it say?
We fight not against flesh and blood, but we're fighting a spiritual battle. Yeah, against
it is definitely
forces of evil arrayed.
It's a spiritual
battle.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that. And they're wearing the armor of God, and that is the truth. And
Iowa State, guys, at Iowa State, just a year or two ago, a student got points taken off of their assignment because they had the audacity to use the term illegal immigrant instead of undocumented person. So that's why college kids are scared, because they're being punished if they don't toe the liberal line.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Well,
thank you.
That's pretty sad. Sad.
Jacob will remember a few years back, Jacob, when the University of Iowa dental student was called before a tribunal for possible expulsion because he agreed on social media with a Trump executive order that involved essentially affirmative action. And, if we hadn't known about that, who knows what would have happened to him. That story ended up well. The dean got let go from the dental school, and the student stayed.
Guys, I mean, just look at the reaction that we saw from educators across the state in Iowa.
Jacob, document this for them, Jacob. You did the most fantastic public service of documenting this horrific reaction. Talk about it, Jacob.
We had an educator post one Nazi down. We had another educator say, I don't condone violence, but he was a horrible human being, he being Charlie Kirk. I'm happy he's no longer here. And that's just the surface. I mean, that's just the surface level stuff. We had educator after educator after educator who justified and celebrated the assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus. In fact, I can't even get the president of the Iowa Teachers Union to give me a statement on his message to educators who are justifying or are celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And when you see these two things, one, it proves how valuable Charlie Kirk was and how needed he is, because these educators are the ones who are inhibiting these students from simply having their beliefs and expressing them. So that's evidence that Charlie Kirk is 100% necessary and Turning Point is 100% necessary at these schools and campuses. And then it's just evidence of how frightening our education system is, to the point where these educators, not only do they think it, not only do they say it, but they put it on social media where other people are going to see it and pick it up. And then what impact does that have on kids who may be conservative that sit in the same classrooms that those teachers oversee and supervise? Everybody says these teachers have a right to freedom of speech. Of course you have a right to freedom of speech. You don't have a right to freedom from consequences of your speech. And those kids have every right to be comfortable sitting in those same classrooms to learn, as actually I would argue they have more of a right than those educators have to say these hateful, vile things that they're saying about Charlie Kirk.
Unbelievable. Let me just get Brock. Anything you want to add to that? That's Simpson.
Yeah, I mean, like hearing that it's pretty crazy. It's crazy. It's not shocking because we've seen what has happened the last 4 years over the media. I started getting really into politics and economics and religion recently. Just in the last 4 years as a college student, I could see those classes that were trying to indoctrinate me, and I was like, I'd call my parents like, what does this mean? I was still growing up, still trying to figure out what life means. And I just one class that really was my turning point was it was called personal discovery of literature. And at the end of the class, the final was we had to watch a movie that was based on a African American lesbian woman and how she wanted to basically sleep with another black African American woman, and I was forced to write a paper about how that was impactful in my life. And in my paper, I said I do not basically believe in that. They were using they brought up like sex toys in that movie, like in the movie. Like I was like, what? And I in my paper I wrote that, and the professor, she was like, I can't pass you. But luckily, John Jacobson knows this guy, Dr. Andy Hazuka, saved me in this class. He's the one that he gave me a B in the class, which it is what it is. I'm not really mad, but she wasn't going to pass me. She was going to bring me the dean of student academics and say that
why was she not going to pass you? What was it that you were doing again?
Because I was not catering to her beliefs. I was not catering to her thoughts and her lifestyle and the way that she wanted the classroom to be run.
Unbelievable. Yeah, that's
and so that was my turning point. I told my parents that, and they're like, "Dang, like good for you." Like they're in California. Well, they're both teachers as well. It's kind of crazy. They're both conservative teachers. My dad's a construction tech woodshop teacher, and my mom's a PE teacher, and they're just done with the society. They're just done with all the wokeness. They're done with all the BS, like you said earlier. And luckily enough, I have my dad's, charisma or character. I just I don't give a F, to be honest. And the saying F around and find out, basically, right? So,
right. No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, you got backbone. You got the backbone there. You guys are fighting back. That's what we need. We need the younger generation fighting back like that. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Oh, my. All right. So thank you all for coming on and joining us. This is an important and delightful conversation. I applaud the efforts and the tenacity that you guys are applying to this thing. The first thing I want to say is that COVID-19 opened people's eyes to how bad our public education system is. I actually candidly no longer refer to it as public education. I had opportunity to meet and speak with Alex Newman years ago, who back then encouraged me not to call it public education. It's government run. It's government run education. Yep. In brief, if it were public, those boards and those entities would listen to the public. Since they do not, they're government run. That's the conclusion. These government run schools have been atrocious for a long time. Charlie Kirk's assassination opened people's eyes to how corrupted and evil and sinister certain elements within that government education system have become. And people have been reporting on it. I'm one of them, been all over social media, highlighting the fact that of those people that gave horrendous, vile answers and actually felt the audacity, they felt safe publishing on social media a celebration of a school shooting is shocking to people. So in a similar way that COVID-19 woke people up to what we used to call curriculum and education, but no longer is in its indoctrination, in a similar way, Charlie Kirk's assassination woke up America and the world to how many people within that education system, you call it whatever you want to call it. I've heard terms like the education industrial complex. That is a cancer. It has grown into a cancer. By the way, as a side note, there's a documentary coming out within the next week or so. It should drop, called Bad Apples, that has to do with unions and their influence over education. You'll actually see yours truly. I figure into that documentary. But a few more things for anybody that's not already aware of, I always say his last name wrong, Yuri Bremnikov. Go back and find videos from the 1980s. In those videos, for anybody that's not aware, it's jaw-dropping. He defected from the KGB in Soviet Union, and he defected and came to the United States and said, watch out. The bad people like the Russian KGB have their sights set on the U.S. education system. And here's what they're going to do to corrupt children's minds and flip the United States into a communist nation and disrupt it. And it's word for word. In 1984, he's talking on camera with newsmen, recording, talking about exactly what we're experiencing today. There's no avoiding that. People that question how we got here, or maybe think that somehow all of this stuff just happened organically, tell them to go back and just put that video in front of their face. A couple of other things for anybody that's not aware. I had great opportunity to sit and meet with Greg Lukianov for lunch a few years ago. He runs something called FIRE. I always have to double check the name. That stands for Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression. FIRE are huge on college campuses, and they're a great complement to Turning Point Action and Turning Point USA. Those are the guys that go out there. Greg is a JD, great guy, very bright. He and his team advocate for free speech. So this whole thing that we've gotten to, where you can't even speak your mind, or if you write your actual true perspective in a college class for credit, and you can get bad grades or marked down because of the teacher's indoctrination agenda, is horrendous. One last piece, I'm going to bring it back to K through 12. Just like a lot of things were experimented on, unfortunately, in early Southern California, which flipped liberal in large chunks, and things were tested there. It was kind of a test market, including gender theory and going and just read Abigail Schreier and Irreversible Damage. That stuff that came out of LA area and Southern California, for a long time, people looked at it and thought, oh, well, that's just California. By the way, for anybody that doesn't know, keep pressing on California because it's not nearly as liberal blue as you think it is. California is dominantly conservative, America-loving Republicans. They're just silenced and crushed by the mass congregations of LA and stuff. But sorry, that's a side note. There's hope for California. Keep fighting, please. But getting back to that kind of testing ground for communist petri dish of bad ideas, the same way that California tested out stuff in Washington and Oregon, in a similar fashion, a lot of really bad ideas were tested on college campuses, but now you see them in K through 12. And I'm going to give one example. I know thousands of them. I was contacted by a family who gave a story of a high school, I think he was sophomore at the time, straight A student, pressed himself very, very driven for straight A, and submitted a paper that the teacher gave a B. The teacher ended up giving a B. The student was just stunned and crushed. The teacher and student ended up in a conversation in the hallway where the teacher effectively told the student face-to-face in private, I gave you a B because you won the lottery. You were born white in America. That's the reason for the B. That is an indication of where we've gotten to. It was just college campuses, and then it grew to most college campuses, and now that stuff has significantly come down into K through 12, and we're even starting to see some of this stuff as low as kindergarten and pre-K. If we don't wake up as a nation to how bad this has gotten, and that starts in my book with pulling as many children as possible from those government schools and find them proper education somewhere else, but also mission critical, get in and run for school board. Wherever you live, wherever you are, get involved in the local operations of your school board only if you do not have children in that district. Do not run if you have children in the district. Find somebody else to run. We need fighters in those school districts to claw back and reclaim proper education for our civil society if we're going to go forward as a constitutional republic.
Very good. Jonathan, or John, not Jonathan, John. We are so lucky that Trump won. Could you
Oh,
imagine
my
where we
goodness.
would be right now if we had those loony birds actually? Let me play this cut, and I'll get your thoughts on it. This is going to
Yeah.
lighten things up here just a little bit. But this is Cackle and Kamala here.
Here's the other thing that is quite unprecedented. And it was the tightest, closest presidential election in the 21st century. He does not have a mandate. That is not a mandate.
It is not a mandate, she's saying. It's not a mandate, not a mandate. So that was at a book signing event she had, and telling everybody that it was the closest election, in the 21st century.
Except that, just to not let facts get in the way, in my lifetime in 1960, John F. Kennedy's victory margin over Richard Nixon was 500,000 votes out of dozens of millions cast. And of course, what that means, obviously, is that that was an election that was incredibly close. With less than 500,000, that was 2 per precinct. Then we go to the 68 election, very similar situation there in the Nixon-Humphrey race, very narrow. And then you look at the races in 2000, where Gore and Bush went into extra innings overtime. And so basically, she's just flat out incorrect.
Well, don't forget she spent $1.5 billion. Her book is called 107 Days. So she's trying to promote her book. So in 107 days, she spent $1.5 billion to lose. I don't know what you're going to get out of that book, but it's hilarious.
The catastrophe is the lawfare and the weaponization of the justice system against Christians. Good grief, you have these Latin mass attending moms in long skirts with 8 kids that they were worried about as being the threats. And yet you see today, you have elements in places like Oregon and in places like Illinois and California where you almost have insurrectionist activity with the wink and nudge of some of the government officials. So Trump winning was everything. And I think I'll just bring in my own opinion here. I think the Lord granted us a reprieve, one more chance to smile on America. And Ronald Reagan always quoted John Winthrop, that shining city on a hill. It's very precariously poised. I would tell you this: I am very heartened because guys like Jacob Hall have got this. He's more popular than the Des Moines Register, okay? He's got millions of hits and followers. He's getting out news that never would be getting out in the mainstream media. And we've got guys like Brock Chapman, who's got the guts to, put his chin out there and fight for free speech on a college campus. The professors in our business college are fighting the good fight, teaching capitalism, not communism. And here's the ironic twist of this. Jacob talked about the Des Moines Public Schools debacle. The chief free speech case, the landmark case in U.S. history at the U.S. Supreme Court, is Tinker versus Des Moines Public Schools from the early 1970s, which upheld the free speech rights of students there to wear T-shirts that gave a political opinion, just like Brock wears his Freedom Charlie Kirk T-shirt, to the radio station and to his endeavors. What Tinker said was that obviously no government actor from the state under the 14th Amendment, equal process and equal protection due process, can deprive any American citizen of rights in the Bill of Rights, which would include free speech. That was I'm an attorney. That was codified into law in the United States statutes. It's Section 1983. Look it up. It's a Section 1983 ruling. And we so much wanted to protect free speech that there's a cause of action, not just against a university or a school or the board of directors. There's a cause of action, individual personal liability for any state actor that denies the free speech of anybody. So that means that any state university, if there's a teacher that's denying free speech, they could be sued personally for their house, their cars, their vacation DACA, their whatever, their 401k, their retirement plan. And I remember quoting that to somebody in the administrative state in Iowa with respect to medical freedom issue and how they were abusing our doctors who were curing their COVID patients and not following the hospital remdesivir ventilator death protocols. They were simply curing everybody using ivermectin protocols, hydroxychloroquine, hyperbaric therapy, glutathione precursors, etc., all which have won their own scientific awards and are written up in medical journals. And I remember talking about the Section 1983 action, and the person said, oh, well, we're indemnified by the state, so we don't have to worry about them grabbing our personal assets. And I said, you just made my point for me. You're going to soak the taxpayers. And I said, I don't care about you, but I do care about the taxpayers. But guys, with the right judges and the right attorneys and the right application of the laws, we have laws there that will protect free speech. We just have folks in certain geographic areas of the country that are issuing bad law. And that's why it's so important that Trump won, to try to wrestle back some additional judicial appointments. Is absolutely pivotal.
Absolutely. Well, let's get Jacob. So what like in wrapping it up or in closing or something, what's your thoughts here?
Well, one of the things that I left out, and I thought when you guys were talking about California and how, it's not as far left as you think in terms of the population, I did leave out the fact that the Des Moines Public Schools superintendent, who is here illegally, is also a registered voter in Maryland who has received absentee ballots since the 2020 election. Just to throw that out there, because that obviously they've told us for years doesn't happen, but it has been happening.
Why? Wait a minute. I can see this happening in California, but in Iowa, I thought you guys were red, completely, totally red, like a tomato. It doesn't sound that way, is it?
Jonathan said California isn't as blue as you think. Iowa ain't as red. Tell me I'm wrong. Prove me I'm wrong, Jacob.
Now, well, I just came from a rally where they had to say no eminent domain for private gain. Here in Iowa, they want to build a carbon sequestration pipeline and pipe it all the way up to North Dakota, and they're using eminent domain to do it. And the Republican-controlled Iowa legislature and the Republican governor have failed 4 years in a row to provide any protections for private property ownership here in the state of Iowa. So, in fact, our Republican governor just vetoed the bill that the legislature did pass this last session. So we're Republican, but I would say we are not conservative as a state as a whole.
Gotcha. Well, I'm going to move it over to Brock here. Brock, you want to put a bow on this here? What's your final thoughts, man?
Well, it's my pleasure, I guess. Thank you for letting me have the ending remarks, I guess. But I was just, it's wild to think my generation being on John's podcast, and it shows that the radio station, I work with John at KOFO, Brandywine Communications over the summer. I'm wanting to get into podcasting now that I see Charlie Kirk's podcast. Getting my group of executive members for our chapter on campus. We're going to start doing a podcast like that. But just seeing in the last, weeks of his assassination, and then since Trump has been elected, you've seen a red wave of not just males. I mean, yes, a very big, large wave of male conservatives, white, black, Mexican, Asian, that are just flooding in and just saying, no, this is not right. This is what we want. We don't want this. We want that. And we don't want you to tell us what to do. We want to be able to choose what we want to do, and make things right in the world. Is what my girlfriend John likes to say. She's Sydney Sweeney Jr.
Brock, yeah. In the interest of full disclosure, so Ottawa, Kansas has a huge American Eagle outfitter distribution center. Brock's girlfriend gets confused with Sydney Sweeney. They think she's Sydney Sweeney. I can tell you they're both conservatives, right, Brock?
Yeah, no, she is. I would say, if you guys can hear me, I would say me and her are like Charlie Kirk and Erica. She is way more, what's the word? She's way more powerful, and she's way more just like mentally strong than I am. She's a nurse. She's gonna be getting her RN in nursing school up in Kansas City. She wants to she wants to be a nurse practitioner. She's working in a NICU right now. She's achieving her goals like crazy. And you think I'm hardcore? Wait till you meet her. She is breaks the ceiling. It's just great to see that now that we have this, comeback story, this American comeback tour, and this story that like, no, we're not falling to your BS. We're not falling to your wokeness. We are standing what we believe for. We're standing for the Constitution. We're standing for what's right, what the founding fathers established for us, and we're taking back America, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome to hear. Generation Z, right? I mean, 24. I think it goes up to age 24. So we love to have those Generation Zs on this show. Let me tell you.
That's great.
Yeah, it is fantastic. We've had a few Generation Zs. Look at that mug. Look at that mug.
There it is.
There you go.
Ohio
Makes everything taste
News.
better.
I didn't wear my sombrero, but I got my official logo wear from you guys.
We love it. All right. Well, thanks, John. Thank you very much.
And Scotty will be back one of these days as soon as we get him out of the fields. He's a serious farmer up there in Northwest Iowa. He would tell me, "We're burning daylight, Jake. We're burning daylight."
He is a hard worker. He told me his driveway is like eighth of a mile long or something.
Yeah. In winter, we won't see him.
Yeah, he's out in the fields. Gotcha.
Hey Joe, a quick shameless plug for not only my mug, I've got mine as well, but also for my podcast, Unwoke Academy. Go to April 1st. There's an interview I did with Rebecca Terrell on those CO2 pipelines in Iowa, places like it, the farmland, the eminent domain issue. They've got a documentary that came out from The New American that focuses on exactly that. It's Rebecca Terrell. I interviewed her. It dropped on April 1st. Go back and check that interview and then go and watch the documentary and share it with everybody. We need to fight back against this. Farmland in America is mission critical. It's the second time tonight that U.S. farmers and farmland has come up on this show. It is critical that we get back to real food and do everything in our power and then some to support family farms and real farming so that we have food going forward for future generations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jonathan, you're the reason why Jimmy Kimmel only wishes he could have an audience as big as Joe and Kent do here on Ohio Political News.
Wait a minute. Yeah, okay. I guess that's a compliment. I think that is a compliment. Hey, thanks a lot, John. We appreciate it. God bless you.
Thank you,
take care. Brian.
God bless you guys.
Everyone.
Thanks a lot, Brian. Jonathan, thank you. And Jacob
Thanks. Good
and
night,
Brock,
everyone.
thank you. Hope to hear from you guys again sometime soon. Take care, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Brock, I'm only 48,000, 23 and a half pull-ups behind you.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it.
I promise you guys I would never lie about that. I've been following this guy. His name is Trent Haynes. He broke the world record for pull-ups in 24 hours.